one of the two, I think, is right. So without trying to become more precise than that, Jesus' baptism spot, I think, is what we're looking into. Somewhere, draw a circle, quarter-mile round, half-mile round, and I think we've got it. So you know how I like to organize my Bible geographically. So in order to understand those later events of John's presence here and of Jesus' baptism here, I'm going to be asking the question, what happened here before? And how is that collection of events sewn together, maybe thematically, in a way that gives me an insight as to what's going on. Why is John here rather than somewhere else? Why is Jesus coming here rather than somewhere else? By the way, I love this site. It has this inherently high worship quality about it. We feel like we're among, this, unlike some of the other tourist spots, there's a faith community that comes here. And we're here for a reason, and there's really nothing else to be here for other than what these folks are here for, and we're here for, right? So let's talk about what happened here before. Deuteronomy 34, in the haze, just about this direction here, we have Moses, who is going to be turned back from the ford. There's a ford here that Israel's waiting on the east side, plains of Moab. Jericho is back this way. So Israel's waiting here to cross over. The Lord turns Moses around, and we have a transition that occurs in leadership. Moses goes into glory. Joshua becomes the new leader who brings God's people across the Jordan River right here. So the same place Jesus is baptized is the place that Israel came across the Jordan River with Joshua. That's Joshua 1. In 2 Kings chapter 2, we have two other very prominent Old Testament figures in this very same arena. Elisha and Elijah come to the river here. Elijah, the senior of the two, says to Elisha, "This is the end for me here, and I am going to be leaving, and you are going to be the one who takes over." And Elijah says to Elisha, his younger charge, "If you see me go into glory, then know that you have that mantle of authority that I have carried." So they come to the Jordan River. They're coming from the west. Elijah takes off his outer garment, slaps the water. It divides. Sound familiar? Just like back in Joshua 3:4 when we were here before. They walk over, the water flows again. Then they go a little bit farther east, not much farther east from where we are here, and what descends out of the cloud but a fiery chariot? Elijah hops aboard, goes up into glory, and his outer garment falls back to the ground. Elisha picks it up, walks back to the Jordan River, thwack, opens up in front of him. So like the third time now that we've read this, he goes across. And so we have the second big transition, or maybe third big transition, Elijah to Elisha. So let me call out the three I've seen so far. The transition between Moses to Joshua. The transition, I didn't call this as clearly as I should have, the transition of Israel from outside the promised land to inside the promised land. That's the second transition. Third transition is going to be Elijah surrendering his leadership to Elisha, another transition. And if we read Malachi chapter 4, verse 5, Malachi 4, verse 5, we are in the last sentences of the Hebrew Old Testament, at least as it's configured organizationally in the Bible that we have. The last of the prophetic books, the last of the verses says, expect another Elijah, capital E, Elijah. And so there is an expectation, a prophetic expectation that comes out of the very back door of the Hebrew Bible that says, expect someone else to come and prepare the way for the Lord. Isaiah had talked about it too. And who is in this arena baptizing? Exactly the same place where Elijah went up, but the new Elijah, Matthew 17, 10 through 13. Matthew 17, 10 through 13 says that John the Baptist is that fulfillment of the Malachi 4 prophecy. Are you seeing the geographic coherence? Yep. So where Elijah goes into glory, John the Baptist, a new Elijah, comes in. So I make that at least 4. I suppose you could subdivide it out differently. But again, we've got Joshua transitioning into the leadership post-Moses. We have Israel transitioning outside Promised Land into the Promised Land. We have Elisha transitioning into leadership, replacing Elijah. We have John the Baptist coming into this arena where we have Elijah going up into glory. So the new Elijah comes in with the old Elijah. So that explains to me why John the Baptist is here. That is a way of helping people understand he is that person without saying it, right? Now the question is, what is John doing with this water right? And that's challenging to figure out because, as I suggested in the bus, it's very, very difficult to put this water right into the frame of a Hebrew Bible Old Testament context. It doesn't look like that. There's nothing. There are water rights that come out of that prior covenant text material, but what John is doing doesn't match. And it doesn't match what Jesus said to do later on. So what is this about? And the text talks about this being a baptism of, and the Greek word is metanoio, transition, changing your thinking. And so I think the place that is so full of transitions also becomes a place where people come to transition, if you will, in their life. They're declaring through this water rite that they are changing their thinking, metanoeto, having a new thought about things. And I think, given the coherence with it, this being a place where you see so many other people going through transition, it makes sense that this baptism rite sort of fits into that model of new way of thinking. So that fast forwards us to Matthew chapter 3. And in Matthew chapter 3, we have the event that we have come here to think about and talk about.